Go.
Hello, companions in Christ in the Episcopal Church in Connecticut. I'm Ian Douglas, I'm your Bishop Diocesan, and I'm joined here today with
Tracy Johnson Russell, and I am your clergy deputy.
I'm Elizabeth Rousseau, and I'm a lay deputy.
And today is the second legislative day of this very compact, very intense 80th General Convention of the Episcopal Church. We're doing the work of 10 days in 4 days. So we've had our 2 legislative sessions today, morning and afternoon, one more tonight after dinner. So, Tracy and Elizabeth, what's happened in the House of Deputies?
Today, the House of Deputies has had a really packed day, but the most exciting part of our day was the election of our president of the House of Deputies. And it was really very interesting that on the first ballot, it became very clear that the House of Deputies, we wanted a lay person to lead us in the next, and lead us. And our president elect is Julia Ayala Harris. And so that was really exciting. So exciting for me today that I actually had tears.
Today we also voted on the locations that we're looking to for the next General Convention, the 81st and the 82nd. The 81st will be held in Louisville, and the 82nd has a number of options, and we are required to look at the safety of the convention and require us to look to what we can do to protect deputies and members joining us at convention. Last night we also had very moving testimony and resolutions that brought to us on racial reconciliation and truth-telling. A125 does something similar to what we have in Connecticut with the racial healing, justice
and
reconciliation ministry network. And it creates an organization at the whole church level and gives them funding separate from the budget of the General Convention, which funds the work of the Episcopal Church more broadly. And then A127 was a truth-telling resolution, and we had really moving testimony from deputies who are impacted by residential schools and their families and their communities and themselves. And we are committed to doing truth-telling and healing as part of repenting for the sins of the church and the sin of residential schools.
And because we are a bicameral legislature, meaning 2 houses, whatever is passed in the one house, in this case the House of Deputies, needs to be concurred with in the exact same form in the other house, that being the House of Bishops, for it to become the order, the rule, the canon of the day, or the canon of our church. So this morning for us, those important resolutions, A125, 127, and 131, which were brought to this General Convention by the presiding officer's working group on reckoning, truth-telling, and reconciliation, came to the House of Bishops. And we debated those same resolutions. On A125, it was a very moving discussion, and I have to say, I was a little bit worried, because there was an amendment that was offered that would actually put off the decision to bring this new coalition for the Episcopal Coalition for Racial Equity and Justice off until the next General Convention. Luckily, that amendment was voted down, because if it had voted up, not only would we not have constituted the coalition, it also probably meant that the resolution as a whole would not have gotten through, because it had to come back to your house before it could be made into law, if you will. In addition to that, A127, like your resolution, repenting of and deeply engaging with our legacy of complicity in the residential school system for Indigenous peoples, we heard really powerful, moving testimony, specifically from people like Bishop Carol Gallagher, whose mother was in a residential school system. a lot of work we have to do on owning our history and complicity in that residential school system. In addition to that, A131, where communities of color here in the Episcopal Church actually own their own power and authority to call themselves communities of color. Another important resolution coming out of it. So the work you did yesterday, thanks be to God, we were able to complete this morning. In addition, most of the afternoon, since the House of Bishops seems to be caught up with many resolutions that have come to us so far, we've been able to work on and debate a very substantial question as to what do we mean when we talk about the Book of Common Prayer. This is in anticipation of the revision of the Book of Common Prayer coming down the road. And for us, the question was, in Article 10 of the Constitution, is the Book of Common Prayer simply those pages between the front red cover and the back red cover that we call 1979? Or is the Book of Common Prayer all of the authorized rights of the church? And why that's important is if the Book of Common Prayer for revision encompasses not only what we were describing as the book of 1979, but everything else, that would include the trial liturgies for marriage equality. So it's a very important, and because the resolution, and we're trying to come up with a compromise resolution, we spent about an hour, hour and a half in pretty good theological and ecclesiological debate over when we say Book of Common Prayer, what do we mean? Important question.
Yes.
Anything else for you all today?
No, just an update that in the House of Deputies that the president and the vice president of the House of Deputies are in separate orders. And so because we elected a lay person for president, we will be electing, the vice president will be someone from the clergy order. So we have that, and those folks have until 6 p.m. tonight to say whether they want to be considered for vice president of the House of Deputies. So I think tomorrow is going to be another exciting day as we look to the leadership of our House of Deputies.
Anything else for you, Elizabeth?
We've got more resolutions to go through tonight. More votes, and hopefully the Wi-Fi and voting continues to work.
Yes.
We've done a lot of work by voice vote, and then we have affirmed some of our voice votes with voting on our little iPads, affirming that we are doing what we think we are doing in the room.
That's right.
There was one other thing you all did today, which I want to thank you for, and that is you all elected me to the Board of Trustees for the Church Pension Group. So
How
thank
could
you
we
very
forget?
much. Thank you very
All
much.
right.
You gave me something to do in my retirement. I appreciate
We're
it.
happy to help.
Thank you.
Keeping you occupied.
And I think that's the wrap up for your deputies and bishops from live from Baltimore. And tomorrow, Bishop Laura will be here. There was a little mix up in communication. She'll be doing the report tomorrow with 2 other deputies. So we'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.
Bye.